Radjabov, he is so good. He knows how to get into his comfort zone, probably more than any other top player right now. And, OK, we see Magnus serve with a different hand. He does open with the queen's pawn this time. The queen's pawn opening, both sides bringing their knights out.
You know what? I'm going to say... I was going to suggest a different move. I thought he might pick up his knight and move it to another square. I'm really fascinated as to which approach... Oh, OK, he's gone for the fianchetto system. The fianchetto is this pawn move, and the reason you put the pawn there is to develop the light squared bishop on the longest diagonal possible, and now we see a very, very tricky move. Who
favour this setup with black. They tend to be counter-attackers. They tend to allow white to gain a bit more space here, but they do fight back against that space. They do lash out later. And Magnus, it looks like he jumps forward with his knight. This is perfectly viable as well. I've seen Magnus play this actually with both colours, or maybe one of the less critical moves.
Yeah, and it's the best move now is to do what Radjabov has just done, which is capture the knight. And now it becomes all about I was going to say the left side of the board, the queen side, and it's going to be about displacing and making the black queen there inconvenient. Okay.
Yep, so black's queen and black's bishop are both attacking white's knight in the middle of the board right now. That white knight had to retreat. Not ideal there, maybe, from Magnus Carlsen, bringing his knight back to a lesser square. Now white finally has castled the king, however. So Magnus, he won't be so happy that there has been a set of trades. It's more of a simple type of position, so Radjabov will be comfortable. But there's still some tension. Black there. His queen was attacked from white's bishop. He just shuffles it to the side.
This position right now, you see the bishop on the light square. That is now on the longest diagonal, and so is black's. And what you see here happening from Magnus is that it's a common scenario that the bishops are really powerful on this really long diagonal. So what you're going to see is quite ideal to actually make some trades.
It's the Grunfeld defence. It's all about that bishop, the bishop that fianchettos itself along the longest diagonal.
Opponent in the Play Magnus app and why. And the Play Magnus app already has a variety of opponents. Has Magnus, has Judith Polgar, Wesley So, and even Magnus's dad. And you can see that just to take the moves there, white has moved the rook, getting ready to support the idea of pushing pawns in the centre, and Radjabov replied with on developing the light square bishop.
You need maybe 4 or 5 preparatory moves, but OK, Radjabov does try to stop it. He does allow that trade of bishops. Best defender of his king has been traded off.
And I feel that the black knight is a little bit offside there on the right. It should perhaps be on the left side of the board. Some cool answers. Oh, I'm not getting the chance. So, white comes and gives a check to the king. The king steps back, and once again, Magnus has to decide on his plan. And Rajesh Agarwal says, and you can see there that Magnus is attacking the black knight. Accomplished.
Clever.
It's very, very good. And plus, he would be quite an energetic, risk-taking opponent, I think.
Yeah.
He has to move to, and Radjabov finds it. Otherwise, that knight was in big trouble.
Ivanka.
Well, I can move a rook. I could also push a pawn. I was going to say...
It's so tempting. It's very hard for a human to resist pushing forward in the centre. And surprise, surprise, Radjabov tries to get the queens off the board. He tries to simplify the position. Very sensible, though. White is gaining space. When you don't have so much space, when you are cramped, when you're being attacked, actually, as black is, it often does release the tension. I think he should have taken a timeout to prevent it. OK, black bringing his rook across, not rushing with the queen trade. He just defends the black knight with his rook.
You guys foresaw that. It's a tense semi-final, both of them.
Yeah, I mean, it's so much manoeuvring, so much sophistication going on. I mean, both players have to be on form and in concentration mode just to take advantage of those small opportunities that will be presented.
We always talk about this in other sports as well, football. Who is the greatest of all time? And it's like, we can never know. You know, times change, the ball in football changes, the field changes, everything changes. But we can actually figure out who is the greatest of all time in chess, putting them up against each other at the same age.
If not, maybe you try and improve a piece, you try and solidify. But black retreated his bishop to a square where it is simply terrible. And now black has given Radjabov has given Magnus the time to kick back that black knight. That black knight has lost so much time in this game, but I'm worried about both of black's pieces now. The black knight is terrible, the black bishop is terrible, and look at this, Stockfish below the player's cameras suggests 3 moves. All of them give white an advantage. White's pieces, the black bishop, meanwhile, even worse. And look at this, Magnus pushing forward with his pawn. That black bishop cannot move, and it probably will not move now for the next dozen turns. That black bishop is, I mean, I just can't believe Radjabov has made his piece that bad. I just feels like, okay, he doesn't go for it immediately, he blocks things up, but look at Magnus stepping forward. I think these last few moves, Radjabov is almost self-destructing. He'll slowly improve all his pieces and push everything on the right side.
Yeah. And David, just a quick question, like, how would you look at this position? Okay, we see some trades happening. I mean, how would you look at this? It looks mightily impressive for white, but how do you kind of just gauge that maybe black is doing a very sophisticated fortress?
Yeah, Magnus, remember, he gave an interview a few years ago. Magnus does not believe in fortresses. He doesn't believe that going passive is the way to save a game. It's a venomous bishop. Suddenly you push this pawn forward, you unleash this bishop's attack against the undefended black rook, and this is winning for white. The black rook would have to move, and white's pawn is just stepping forward. So black, in the end, did give up that pawn. As we mentioned, it's just impossible to defend it. In this position, we did hear the ping there. Radjabov just bringing his knight forward, allowing that pawn to drop, but now Magnus, he's a pawn up and with a dominant position. Look at this bishop, how bad is that piece? I played him over the board as well. Sometimes when he's leaning back, he thinks he's okay, he thinks he's in control, but he's not too excited by the position when Magnus is leaning back. We've seen it before, right?
Yeah.
But as soon as he leans forward, he kind of tenses up. He is focused, ready for the kill. And, okay, the white knight improving itself. Black's pawn stepping forward, trying to fight for some space, but it's too late. Bishop gets in the way of the black king from bringing itself to the left side. Magnus does block up the right flank, and player's going to switch over to the other side now. Black is unable to participate with his bishop and with his king. White's king is now going to walk its way over to the centre. Okay.
Yeah, he said he's give him a bad position, give him a terrible position, but give him a 1 position, can't win it. And okay, so he pushes. Yeah, I like this move. Push a pawn, fix the pawns on light squares, and there you can see that Radjabov has managed to open 1 line for the rook. Small victory.
Okay, he does take those pawns off the board. Black can give a check with his rook right now. That's a move I would expect to see, but Magnus can block that check. So if black's rook comes down to attack white's king from the side, okay, it doesn't. It goes the whole way down the board. But there are no targets there. Magnus is improving his bishop, controlling squares. What else can you do? You can barely move the black knight. You can't move the black bishop.
Give a check.
Give a check. White will block that with his rook.
Don't swap off rooks. Resist that temptation. Keep your rook alive.
Because that's black's only active piece.
Exactly. Otherwise, you're just giving a free hand for the white king just to walk its way into the left side of the board. And okay, now just.
Okay, Magnus is
passed again. I mean, well, you can't really do too much, can you?
Yeah, Radjabov. Okay, instead of moving the black rook up and down, he just moves the black king. 1 move here that actually is, okay, for Magnus, he is so precise. He finds the top computer suggestion for sure in this one. He needs Magnus to maybe panic and lose control, because Magnus has complete and utter control right now. Okay, the black rook did drop back as expected. White's knight didn't attack the black pawn from the front, as we were maybe predicting. He jumps forward with the white knight. Okay, that makes perfect sense as well. It's just a more active way of implementing the same plan. I don't think black ever wants to capture the white knight with his bishop. Black's bishop is terrible, but if you capture the white knight, then white would create a very powerful pass pawn. And now Teimour Radjabov with his last move.
Yeah.
Just, okay, traded a set of pawns on that right side, but that doesn't change anything in the position.
Into the action, and black's position is just creaking. I mean, is any hope? I don't see anything.
I mean, literally zero hope, I think, at this point. Yeah, I think white can just step forward with the white king. White can improve the white rook. The white
anything.
Rook, yeah, there we go. White's rook jumps into the position. We did mention black's bishop being terrible. It is defended by black's knight right now. It's not under fire yet. But if black ever does get tempted to capture the white knight, then white just establishes. I mean, I keep using the word dominant, but establishes a dominant pawn, and black will be completely paralysed. Radjabov just resigns.
Wow. Wow. Teimour Radjabov, he resigns the 3rd game against Magnus Carlsen.